In Geometry Section 5.4, we're dealing with triangle inequalities. So the one theorem that we're going to be using is called the triangle inequality theorem. Basically, it tells us the rules that allows sides to become triangles. What that means is that when you add up any two sides of a triangle, it has to be bigger than the last side. So for example, 2, 4, and 5. If I have 2 plus 4, okay, so if I do 2 plus 4, it's bigger than 5, right? Because I have 6 is bigger than 5. If I do 2 plus 5, it's bigger than 4, which means that 7 is bigger than 4. And then I have 4 plus 5, which is bigger than 2 automatically because both of these are bigger than 2. So 9 is bigger than 2. So if you can see here, automatically these two are going to be correct because 5 is already bigger than 4, and 4 is already bigger than 2, and 5 is already bigger than 2. So what I really need to check is, are the two smallest bigger than the largest side? And so basically, if I have, let's see, my sides are 1, 2, and 3. Well, my two smallest is 1 and 2, so 1 plus 2 is not bigger than 3. In fact, it equals 3 instead of, so 3 is not bigger than 3. So this could not be a side, it could not be a triangle. 2, 4, and 5 could be a triangle. So this is called the triangle inequality theorem. Basically, again, it's the two, any of the two sides added together has to be larger than the bigger side. So don't forget to do the vocabulary and go ahead and write this down, pause it and write it down, and we have one example. Alright, so basically this example is asking us to find what the range of n is. So basically what is telling us is n has to be, there can only be a certain amount of numbers. A certain amount of numbers where n can be, and it can't be any smaller or bigger than that range of numbers. And because it's a little bit more difficult to figure this out, I'm going to bring you through the process. So let's first find out what the rules we have. Okay? We know for sure that both of the sides added together has to be bigger than the last side. So n doesn't have to be between 8 and 14. Please remind you. N can be bigger than 14, n can be smaller than 8. We just have to figure out what ranges still lets us plug into n, but still lets us to prove the triangle inequality theorem still true. Okay? So basically I know that 8 plus n has to be bigger than 14. What else? Well, we know that 14 plus 8 has to be bigger than n. And we also know that, what do we have left? Oh, yes. N plus 14 has to be bigger than 8. Right? So from here, we're going to solve all of these for our n. Okay? So I subtract 8 from both sides. 6, n is bigger than 6. 14 plus 8 is 22, is greater than n. And then we're just going to subtract 14 from both sides. We know that n has to be bigger than negative 6. Now, all of these, I now need a graph on a number line. But if you remember, and it was quite a long time ago, in chapter 1, when we're graphing on a number line, the variable has to be on the left-hand side. Okay? So that means I have to move 22 and n has to be on the other side. How do I move that? Now remember, all I have to do is take n and so since this has a smaller than sign, I'm just going to flip it to look like that. It's the same thing except n is on the left-hand side. Now I can graph. And let me show you why it's important to graph. I mean, it's important to put n on both sides because I'm going to put all three graphs one right out on top of each other. Okay? So let's make this 0, 0, 0. So I know that the first one here, n has to be bigger than 6. So if I found 6 right here, okay, I know that n has to be bigger than 6, and it's not included, so open circle going to the right. So remember, if this is on the left-hand side, then all I have to do is point here in order for it to graph, okay? Then I take this one, and this is 22. Let's make this 22, and it has to be open circle. These are all open circle, and now it's pointing to the left. So I'm going to go to the left. And the last one is that it has to be bigger than -6. So here's -6, and it has to be here. Right? If you still have problems graphing this, please go ahead and look on Chapter 1 on how to graph inequalities. But that should refresh your memory. And basically, my range of what n can be is where all three of them overlap. Okay? So if I can see here, I know it has to be here. Sorry. It has to be here. So you see? Okay. So you see that -6 right here? It has to be here, okay? And then it has to be, but the problem with this being is that it cannot be a negative number because you can't have a negative measure. So it needs to be between 6 and 22. How I show that is 6, it has to be between 6, so it has to be bigger than 6. N has to be between 6 and 22, and that's how I show it. So n is between 6 and 22. Basically, I'm going to take the positive and the bigger number and put it in between, and that allows, and that means, and remember, I can't put 6 in here. I have to put anything bigger than 6, so 7, 8, anything between, I can choose 7 through 21, basically what that's saying. Because if this was here, then it would be different, but it's not. It's not or equal to. It's just greater than 6 and less than 22. I apologize. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be this way. So greater than 6 and less than 22. My apologies for that. So go ahead and try page 299, number 2 and 5, page 299, numbers 2 and 5, and I will see you in class.